Welcome to Literary Mindset. Make sure and like this video, and press the subscribe button. From Romanticism towards the Age of Realism. The 19th century was a time of many shifts in the economy, politics, aesthetics, and the epistemology that governed Europe and most of the world. With the advancements and progress of the Industrial Revolution compounded with nationalism and political revolutions, new ways of thinking came into vogue within the social psyche. These new advancements and social shifts were manifested through what was termed the Age of Realism. Undeniably, the huge power of the Industrial Revolutions altered the world and was evident through shifts in epistemology, religion, aesthetics, and economics. In this video, we aim to highlight that the Industrial Revolution transformed the epistemic paradigm of the world into a new epoch of history, termed realism. The Industrial Revolution altered the land, city, and the way the sciences were approached, which led to thinkers and writers such as Karl Marx, Charles Darwin, and Charles Dickens. Industrial Revolution. Between 1848 and the early 1870s, the Second Industrial Revolution created an economic boom throughout most of Europe. Employment in manufacturing surged, and expansion of trade throughout the world nearly doubled. Advancements in new technologies that included electricity, chemical processes, and oil-fueled combustion engines helped create a new atmosphere in Europe that helped individuals have longer lifespans and promoted the advancement of education within the masses. Simple scientific principles were discovered that included the comprehension that diseases were caused by microorganisms and bacteria. In contrast, the First Industrial Revolution was mainly monopolized by the British, but the second wave of the Industrial Revolution became occupied by the French and Germans. With German unification, the area was able to produce iron, coal, steel, textiles, and chemicals at unprecedented rates that would eventually dwarf the British output. Indeed, the second wave of the Industrial Revolution had the appearance that it would persist, and progress would be the norm. However, this was not the case, because in 1873 a depression hit Europe, and the new intertwined global economy received large monetary shortfalls. The depression lasted about 20 years, and was evident in urban areas where industrialism had created mass migration. Many individuals moved to urban areas because of the mass amount of manufacturing jobs that were created because of the industrial revolutions, were now living in poverty and disparity. The large population growth and ethnic discrimination, compounded with the economic depression, forced many individuals to migrate to the New World. The illusion of the prosperity of the industrial revolutions was shattered for many. Culture of respectability. The Second Industrial Revolution improved the social status of science, scientists, and education. Historian Robin W. Winks stated that at the time, the bourgeoisie associated prosperity with science, hard work, and self-improvement. A focus on reason, restraint, and responsibility were held as an imperative by the elite. Known as the culture of respectability, this norm was in contrast with the romantic ideals and utopians that preceded. This new social epistemic paradigm was critical of religion and moved in the direction of secularism. New sciences flourished, including sociology, proto-psychology, economics, and political science. Moreover, the culture of respectability made space for thinkers and artists to create works that did not align with Christianity, that were able to represent the world in a secular and materialistic fashion. For example, Karl Marx predicted that the criticism of religion in Germany has largely been completed, and that it could not be proved by science. Thus we ought to move on from being bogged down by religious banalities, and concern ourselves with actual physical reality. An epistemic transformation from Romanticism was moving towards a focus on the sciences that could be proved with induction. Manifestation of realism. The term Age of Realism was appropriated from the arts and was used to summarize the culture of the period. Realism comprised of a 25-year period that spanned after the mid-19th century revolutions. Indeed, it was the zenith of classical liberal capitalism, and many believed that utopian metaphysical thinking was a remnant of the primitive past. Therefore, it was crucial to not harbor about the past revolutions and focus on the reality of the day. While many thinkers and artists passed in and out of fashion, Charles Darwin captured the mood of realism and is still considered a giant of thought. His theories on evolution connected the world, sciences, and humans all together. Darwin was born into a wealthy family, and his father desired that he follows a predetermined path that included him becoming a reverential doctor. However, Darwin was not a successful student, and barely passed his academic studies. He studied religion, and eventually secured an unpaid job as a naturalist on the ship termed the HMS Beagle. For several years, he traveled and observed the animals throughout Africa and Latin America. In 1859, he published On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, based on natural history, that highlighted the rise, development, and sometimes disappearance of thousands of different plants and animals. This claim was in contrast with the story of Genesis from the Bible, that claimed that creation was universal. Subsequently, if the Genesis story was accurate, then the fauna would have something universal within its distribution. However, the distribution of species showed that it was not distributed universally. Darwin was quickly criticized by the religious community, but deeply praised by the intellectual community. He claimed that his argument was not an attack on religion but a logical issue with science, and it was not in contradiction with Christianity. Subsequently, in private, he claimed that his theories went against the church and its religious dogma. Darwin connected the culture of respectability and realism to his studies and later claimed in The Descent of Man that man was an ancestor of a remote primate. Both Protestants and Catholics condemned Darwin's claims, but eventually adjusted the classic theological arguments to propose a God who worked through organic evolution. Darwin's theories are still heavily contested discourse, and are still currently used as proof that humans evolved from nature, and there remains many individuals in the Abrahamic religious tradition that contend that Darwinism is a negation to the non-temporal first mover. With the advent of industrialism, there was a rise of two instruments that helped shape cultural norms that included the novel and newspaper. Both were created with new manufacturing processes, and were mass-circulated cheaper than before. Inexpensive media became the public marketplace for ideas that were used as an apparatus for norm-setting functions. Indeed, this helped with the promotion of new political ideas and nationalism. The realistic novel became popular within all social classes, and the narrative tended to reject dreamy romanticism, and was used to highlight social inequality in a realist manner. Many authors like Fyodor Dostoevsky and Charles Dickens were social critics that demonstrated the disparities of the lower class and the conflicts between scientific progress and human suffering. Other authors like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle compounded scientific deduction and induction with crime and society. Additionally, in Moby Dick, author Herman Melville used scientific realism in his novel when he dedicated a whole chapter to the anatomy and biology of a whale. The Age of Realism was also evident in the paintings and photographs of the time. The Academy held an imperative that all its artists were to create art that was aligned with history or mythology. However, realist artists rejected this demand and desired to create paintings that aligned with science and the reality of the time. French artist Honoré Daumier rebelled against the Academy and exposed the evils of French society in his art, and mass-produced inexpensive copies of lithographs. Additionally, the photograph became an art form that represented the century, and was able to directly record reality as it was. The photograph was a mechanical device that was created by industrial progress, and recorded reality in real time, which was a perfect manifestation of the Age of Realism. Conclusion. The Industrial Revolutions helped alter the arts and epistemology of the 19th century from a romantic utopia paradigm to the Age of Realism that desired to create works that aligned with reality and the sciences. Many intellectual giants and artists of that era are still studied and celebrated today. For example, the social sciences, with its operatives today, attempt to describe society through positivism that manifested during the 19th century. Thinkers like Charles Darwin and Karl Marx were able to create their theories with the help and support of the culture of respectability. Additionally, the ills and injustice of society were exhibited through the aesthetics of the novel, newspaper, paintings, and photographs. It can be said that the remnants of the Age of Realism are still with us today and are expressed through art forms such as rap music and internet videos.